Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we delve into Copenhagen's seedy underbelly to discover which movies of a trilogy are just vitamins and which movies are pure ecstasy. I'm your host, the King of Cocks, and joining me...
I'm Griner, and I'm the King of Copenhagen. You stole my quote. The King Kong of Copenhagen.
Yeah, the King Kong. And I'm Luke Morgan, and I'm just here to watch some stupid movie with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, we should have probably organised that before, but we didn't. We're talking about Pusher, Nicholas Winding Refn's descent into the gritty neo-noir streets of Copenhagen / Denmark. What are you guys' relationships with Nicholas Winding Refn?
I love Drive. As all men, Drive is part of my identity. And
Yes,
I loved him in Death Stranding as Die Hard Man.
That's weird, okay.
Literally, he's a character in it, like a major character.
Is that who it is? Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I had no idea.
Yeah, because Kojima is obviously a big fan of him.
Of course it
and
is.
Drive is part of his identity as well. So,
Grana, what about you?
I did not know who he was. You suggested this trilogy. I'm like, oh, Mads Mikkelsen. You guys are so turned on by Mads Mikkelsen. I think he's fine.
Yes.
But I didn't know anything about Nicholas Winding Refn? What?
I think it's Refn.
But then I looked up his filmography and I'm like, oh, Drive's a pretty cool movie. But
best movie of 2011.
I don't know that anything else on his filmography has ever been seen by these eyes.
Yeah, so he's had an interesting career. He made these three movies. Sorry, he made this movie. He made Pusher 1, a few other things in his native Denmark. I'm going to keep getting this. I'm going to have to keep pausing for this because I always get him confused. Then he breaks out into Hollywood eventually. Then he makes 2 and 3 after some commercial failures. And so he makes 2 and 3 to basically save his production company. They're hits. Then he moves overseas and he makes Bronson, which is like a really weird character study with Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy,
yeah. Yep. Valhalla Rising, which is like another super weird Viking movie with our boy Mads. And then he makes the best film of 2011 with Drive and kind of becomes a household name. Like you said, Luke, the amount of people I know who are like, I need to get me a Scorpion jacket. Mm-hmm. And just that movie, I don't know, Drive's probably definitely his best film, and that just kind of seemed to really define an aesthetic, just capture something really special for a lot of people, like the combination of noir and kind of 80s
brought neon back. I feel like.
Yeah, brought neon back, and just I don't know, great film. And then he's had kind of a weird career. Went on to make, I think after that was Only God Forgives, which is a huge steaming turd of a film.
It feels like it should be a good, it's him again with what's his face? Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
His name left my brain. Yeah. But yeah, apparently it's bad.
Yeah, so bad. And I really wanted to like it because, like you say, it was more neon. It was Gosling. I was like, Drive 2. But yeah, real crap. And then he's made The Neon Demon, which I haven't seen, and then he's made some TV shows, and they are. I don't know if they're impenetrable, but they are very hard to be penetrated. I watched some of Too Old to Die Young. It is just a slog. It is really difficult to get into, and you need to be on a. He's got a rhythm, he's just got a wavelength that you need to be into, I think, and it's interesting watching these films because you compare Pusher 1 to any of his later films, and it's these are nothing alike. They are they're completely different. There's because Pusher 1 is very naturally lit, very intimate, very kind of grounded, whereas all the other ones are purely artificial and meant to make you just feel uncomfortable with sort of the slow, stagnant world. So I don't know. It's interesting watching him sort of turn from, even over the Pusher trilogy, I don't know, watching the progression from young amateur filmmaker to starting to learn some more tricks and where he's gone. I don't know, it's interesting. But did you guys enjoy these overall?
So Pusher is obviously, it's like his directorial debut, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he was 24 when he made Pusher, which
Crazy.
is crazy. What have we done with our lives? And it was actually.
I made a film when I was.
Oh yes, you did. You did.
Coming to our YouTube channel soon.
I can't wait for the trilogy for that. It was Mads Mikkelsen's first film, too, as well, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of it is like the budget and like that amateurness behind it. That it is very just it's just raw. Like it's very just presented. Like a lot of scenes are just dark. Like you can't even see what's going on in it. Where I was like, am I meant to be seeing something that's happening in the scene? Like, am I meant to? But it's it's got a style to it, and like you can see him start to play with neon as best as he can with it, like with the lit
Yeah.
rooms and everything like that, and the lights on people's faces throughout these films. I
Mm.
read a bit about the trilogy because it was intriguing to me. And yeah, basically what you said, Conan, like the first film was a success. Everybody liked it. Then he went on to make a couple more, and his first like English film bombed really bad at the box office, and he basically had no choice but to go back and make a sequel and a third one for this. Like there wouldn't have
Yeah.
been a trilogy had he been successful making other films, and he came to
Yep.
this just for like financial gain, basically. Um, he did a thing. I highlighted a quote because I thought it was interesting, where he was like, it forced me to understand that film is a commodity that you have to look at as a business, and that sometimes you have to let go of your pure artistic integrity and combine the two things, business and integrity, into its own art form, rather than only concentrate on one or the other. Which is interesting because, like, you look at Rotten Tomatoes, and a lot of people like 2 and 3 just as much as one, or more
Mm.
so, a lot.
Yeah.
So to go back to that wheelhouse without the artistic drive to do it almost, and to smash it out of the park, really, compared to like it's a very good effort. And it's interesting the way he presented it, where it's like you feel like this was supposed to be a trilogy in a way, but yeah.
Yeah, but you can also see how it would be perfectly like it's also perfectly not like the first one
Yep.
first one is standalone. He does a great thing with it, like changing characters each time. But that's
Yeah.
such an interesting quote, the idea of viewing it as a commodity, because then his later stuff has kind of been notoriously
Yeah.
uncommodifiable. Like there's stuff that everyone is like, why? How is this getting made? Why is Amazon giving him money for this? Why is Netflix giving him money for this? And all of his movies are big flops. We're like, I don't know.
So is
I don't
it
know. Like,
the fact
yeah.
that he really needs to be broke to make really good stuff? Like he needs to have he'd be on the ropes a bit and be like, oh god, I need to make a banger to like
Drive being
to get
successful was the
myself
worst thing for him. Yeah.
Yep. And then now he's got that Death
Exactly.
Stranding money. So
Yeah.
yeah.
He's making bank from that.
Yeah.
He never should have let Kojima scan him. That's the problem.
Exactly. Kojima will now use him for the rest of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, now
He
he owns
owns
him.
his likeness in perpetuity, no doubt.
Yeah.
Bad choice. Kojima is going to destroy this nation. Yeah, it's a really interesting story. So I'm curious to know what the budget of Drive was, because it was 15 million. I made 78 million. It's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting filmmaker. All right, let's do some stats.
All right. Stats.
All right, now the budget and earnings for this are very tricky to find. I haven't really been able to. So Pusher One came out in 1996. It's got a Metascore of 72, pretty good. It had estimated budget of 6 million kroner, which is roughly 1.3 million Australian dollars today. So less than a million US. Maybe less. I don't know what they would have been in 96 different. So maybe less than 2 million, whatever. And like IMDb has its earnings as $1,600 worldwide. Woo! But as we've mentioned, like all the sort of oral history around this was a huge success in his native Denmark. So it must have made good money because it made him successful and earned money. So I don't know. I didn't dig too deep, but keep that in mind. Pusher 2 comes out 8 years later, 2004, Metascore of 78. And then it's got a budget of nothing that I can find. So it's got nothing
It
listed on
cost him
IMDb.
$0 to make this
Nothing on.
movie.
Yeah, people just get. Yeah, I don't get it. Maybe
Everybody got paid in cocaine. That was real cocaine they were using in those scenes.
that's a big rumor. A lot of people say that's what happened to these movies.
Which is really why they were so pissed with Kurt when he flushed it down the toilet.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
we are hooked, dude. So yeah, I actually can't find a budget for this, for Pusher 2 or Pusher 3. So I don't know what really went on there. It's IMDb, Wikipedia have nothing. So all I know is that they were, like I said, they were made for probably a smaller amount of money. And I think they were both commercially successful though, because they gave him the clout
Yeah.
and the revenue to then save his company and keep making movies. So made him something. But look, 78 is the Metascore for Pusher 2, and then Pusher 3 comes out 1 year later, 2005, has a Metascore of 72. So like you said, Luke, pretty similar, if not like.
I mean, and then Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, what's
that
that got?
I didn't hear you ask, but Rotten Tomatoes 83% for Pusher 1. Pusher 2 is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Jeez.
And then Pusher 3 is 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Interesting. So
On
yeah, number one.
IMDb, they're all 7.3.
Jesus.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. Like, I don't know how these things don't get
collusion.
scores. Must be. It's conspiracy to make sure he never gets. Everyone has to watch all 3 movies. Yeah, look, it's interesting. Doesn't happen a lot where trilogies kind of, come out and all of them seem to be about as good as each other. There's usually one standout or one dud. So, intriguing. All right, let's go to Pusher 1. In the worst week of his life, Frank, a drug pusher, grows increasingly desperate after a botched deal leaves him with a large debt to a ruthless drug lord.
A drug pusher. I get it. I
Yes,
get it now.
he doesn't just push people.
You never seen Mean Girls?
Pusher. Okay. No, I haven't.
Have you not seen
You should
Mean
watch Mean
Girls?
Girls. But anyway, that's
No.
totally irrelevant to this.
No, let's do the Mean Girls plot. How have you not seen Mean
Actually
Girls?
ties into the Pusher trilogy, the Mean Girls duology.
Drug pusher.
Yeah. Grano,
Man.
what do you think?
Oh, you're gonna let me talk about these movies? Yeah,
Sorry.
they are really intimate. I think you're right, Conan. Like I was really amazed watching these. Like they're always from one guy's perspective. Like you very rarely see the perspective of anyone else. The camera's always in super tight. And the thing I really like about that is that every single one of these characters is like totally morally bankrupt, right? Like they're not people, they're not good guys, they're not people you should even really empathize with at all. Yet you kind of can't help it because you're just the camera is so intimately attached to them. Like you kind of, you want Frank to run away from the cops. You don't want him to lose his dope in the river. Like,
you feel personally threatened.
Yeah, that's right. Like you kind of want him to succeed. And it's not until they kind of introduce other characters that you should care about, and he really shows his true colours in a few cases. It's like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. And then obviously at the end we kind of see what his demise is going to be. But such an effective way to shoot all 3 of these movies, I think. Like I thought that was just so effective.
I agree. It gives a real intimacy to, like, an incredible intimacy to this, like, to a movie that's trying to bring you into a world. And it makes like empathy through intimacy, like, just hanging out with people in real life and makes you tend to like them.
Yeah.
And so rather than being like, hey, why should I like you? It's just, no, if you just spend time with someone, usually you're going to start to resonate. I think it has that same feeling here. The fact that you are always on his black hoodie shoulder, like you feel like you are Frank, or you're just hanging out with him and Mads in the car talking about face ejaculate.
Yeah, you feel like you're wearing his Adidas track pants. You're right there with him.
You can smell it. Like you can smell the car.
You can smell that car.
And he's like, oh yeah, I know people like this.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I was expecting from this movie.
You'd never seen it, Conan?
No, they were one of those ones of this, very important. I found out that I had the whole trilogy on Region 2 DVD, and only one of them worked, which is weird. But they're one of those ones that I was like, I've got to see Pusher, I've got to see this, and I've never got around to it. So I'm glad I finally have. But I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting. I guess I was expecting like a bit more like Drive. I was expecting sort of frantic neon and more stylistic flourishes. But it really is just like guerrilla filmmaking. It's just like you can feel like it would have just been these 3 guys just walking around Copenhagen. Probably everyone's like, I don't know what they're doing. They're kids being idiots. And like, just we've got to film this. We can't afford lighting. We can't afford sound equipment. We're just going to be right. I wonder how, like you said, Luke, how much of it's necessity? How much of it is just they literally couldn't afford a boom? It's like, we need to have the camera right next to your face. Now, I'm sure that's not fully true, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some element to it that was just like,
we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. And, like guerrilla filmmaking like that is always really charming. I always really love that. Luke, what did you think?
Yeah, I that's the thing. This had been sort of on my watch list for a while. Like I said at the end of the last episode of the podcast, the Cube trilogy that you can watch on YouTube now, is that I was like, had this in my back pocket where I was like, I'm going to bust out this random trilogy that's going to blow their mind. They're going to expect me to bring out Avengers, and I'm going to be like, the Pusher Trilogy. It's
Push it,
foreign.
bitch.
Look at me. I know other
Sucked.
films. You know, you have to read
Wow.
subtitles, guys. And then you said it, and I was like, rats. I've sat on it for months.
Mm.
But yeah, it's at the start, I was like, I feel like all these films, but especially the first one, you introduce these characters, and I feel like it's very bombastic. Like, they're bright and bubbly. They're like talking shop, and I was just like, oh, man, like this is like these aren't dudes I would like to hang out with. You know what I mean? It's
No,
like
but you didn't find like their banter endearing in some ways.
in a way, I wouldn't want to hang out with them, but it's
No,
like
no, but it's kind.
I,
I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I like Mads, so like I don't know, I like his respect tattoo. I give that respect.
That
I'm
might
back
be
to
the
his
worst
bed.
tattoo ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's so bad.
Who
I
gets
wonder
that?
how many Danish people got that tattoo after this movie came out. You know?
Oh.
And they're just like, oh, now I need to grow my hair out because this isn't
Yeah,
good. But
I had a bad time in '96.
I walked into this trilogy thinking it was a Mads Mikkelsen trilogy, and I was like,
Mm.
Mads is the lead. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, cool. So when is the flip? Like, when is it going to be? And then halfway through, I'm like, did he just kill Mads? I was like,
Mm.
but I'm like, okay, when Mads is going to make his return now and come in with like a steel chair and take him out and get his revenge, and then that's why he takes over the trilogy. And then I was like, what's going on? He's dead. And then, yeah, number two starts up. I was like, oh yeah, but yeah, it reminded me a lot as I was watching of Uncut Gems, which is one of my favorite films,
Mm.
where it the latter half of this is very just anxiety driven, where it's like, oh my god, this guy can't get his shit together. Like
Mm.
no matter what or how many chances pop up or something where it's like, oh, he's an out, he just can't help himself and gets back into it. And
Mm.
it is that kind of thing where you're just like, oh well, you deserve this. Like.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
then that's the thing, but like Grant said perfectly, you are kind of rooting for him. And then he treats his missus as like
Yep.
a piece of shit. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
dude, you're an asshole. Like
Yep.
I want you to get what's coming to you. And really, throughout the whole trilogy, the person that I'm like, he's a pretty good dude, is Radovan. I'm
Yeah.
just like, I like him. Like I like him. Like he seems like he's actually having like a heart to heart conversation that, oh man, I want to get out of the gangster life and open up a restaurant. And that comes
Mm.
back later, obviously. And I was like,
Yeah. Yep.
yay. And then it's like, oh, he's still kind of messed up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed it. And knowing that like he made this at the age of 24, I felt like made me even look back at it more positively, where I was like, okay, no,
Mm.
that is like that's really cool, like yeah, I can't imagine, having the skills to do this at 24. And I was pretty captivated throughout the whole film, and I'm glad they're all like an hour 40. They don't overstay their welcome. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It surprised me.
Yeah. Do you think he was like this? These movies came out in kind of the first one came out in the height of Tarantino's crime era, right? Do you think he had any inspiration from there? Because I got huge Tarantino vibes, like driving around in the car with them, talking about their sexcapades, like flashbacks to Mr. Pink, talking about like a virgin, like
Mm.
I don't know. Do you think there was some inspiration there? Or is it just chance that they have kind of have this similar vibe a little bit?
90s was all these crime sort of
Yeah, I
things.
know,
I
but
feel
just
like,
the banter between the characters as well, though. On top of that, and like
yeah,
these intimate scenes where there's just lots of talking. Like there's a lot of
talking.
there's a lot of scenes where it's just them chatting away. It's not real. They're just shooting the shit. They're not even driving a plot forward.
Yeah.
That scene of them in the car talking about like the ejaculate on the face and
Yeah,
if they've had sex with what's her face, just goes on. It just goes on for so long. And he's just like, but if he has
That's why you
sex, he's
just
like,
feel like you're part
no,
of the conversation.
like yeah, it does, but it also feels like a conversation where you're like, God, guys, shut up! I don't want to talk about this anymore. I was going to ask you guys a similar thing, like, how would you? Because that's a comparison I've seen a lot. Like the Danish Pulp Fiction is kind of is a shorthand answer that I've seen on Letterboxd and some other places. Like I don't know. Compare this to say like Tarantino with Pulp Fiction or like Guy Ritchie's other one. Lock,
yep,
Stock,
Lock,
and
yep,
Snatch.
yep,
I think even maybe more so they're like that in my mind. Like I don't know. Do you?
Yep.
Because I think there is an undeniable similarities.
yep.
I should just check when Lock, Stock came out because that might have come out after. Yeah, it came out in '98. But yeah, like the '90s definitely was the time when
maybe
I don't
this
know.
influenced them.
Like Pusher One might have influenced Lock Stock a bit. I definitely think like you can see Tarantino's fingerprints on this a bit. To
Yeah.
your point, Griner, like just the hanging out with people, hanging out with criminals, and sort of just spending time with them and kind of like providing an insight into a world. The difference, I guess, is Tarantino is like a finely polished DJ who's like, this is exactly why. His conversations are kind of eclectic and script. You can tell they're scripted,
Yeah.
but in a good way. Whereas this, I think, was actually just like, hey, can you guys talk about sexcapades?
Talk about what
Yeah.
you did on the weekend.
I think you're right.
And Mads is just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
I think a lot of Tarantino's inspiration comes from films, right? Like he's a huge film buff. Whereas I wonder if these guys were just like, we go out and drink a lot, we've done a lot of cocaine. This is the kind of conversations we have, and like that's their route, right? I think maybe.
I think you're right. Like, there's an infamous TV interview with Nicholas Monogoff and Kim Badina.
Yep.
And they asked, it's like, don't ask us about how he made it look realistic. And they asked them how they made it look realistic. And so it became super awkward. And I think that's the whole point of it. It seems almost undeniable that they're just like, this is what goes on in Copenhagen. Like these are the drugs we do, and these are the people we hang out with, and we all have a friend like Tony. And it's just a real, we just talk about just really gross shit. And so I would say that, like, I don't know if the Pulp Fiction comparison or even the Guy Ritchie stuff is apt, because they are more like stylistic kind of plays on the genre, whereas this I think is genuinely like an insight into a world, like genre. Pulp Fiction is not an insight into the criminal world. There are not guys driving around at 7 a.m. talking about royales with cheese to shoot up a place. Like it's not how it goes. Whereas this place, like, you feel like this is a documentary. You feel like we were saying before, we've seen guys like this. We've smelled the smells. They would definitely have bad relationships with their girl, and they would just do one dumb drug deal that ends up ruining their lives.
You could re-edit it to be like a documentary, like, we followed these two drug dealers, around and just film their weekly escapades, basically.
It's just missing some talking heads, honestly, and you're there, basically.
Yeah, just put a voiceover and talking heads. It's like, I can't believe I had to go into this house with Frank. It's like, whoa, I can't believe they did all this.
I couldn't believe it when that guy shot his head off with that shotgun.
And I was there like, what? Oh, no.
Look, we had to cut for the day, and I had to go and have a shower. Yeah, like, it's interesting. I think, I don't know, I actually didn't enjoy the first one that much.
Really?
So it's not as much as I was expecting. But I think to your point, Luke, I admired it more than anything. Like, knowing that it was a 24-year-old kid and his friend just being like, hey, how fun are the drug-fueled weekends we have? Let's make a movie about that. And like, again, he's clearly not the director he would become, but he knows how to hold a camera. He knows how to do stuff. He knows how to get performances out of his actors. Like, Mads Mikkelsen's really pretty good in this.
Yeah.
So like, it's. Yep.
How much do you guys think performance translates across language barriers? Like, that's the thing I struggle with, in assessing this movie or assessing, like, I don't know, any movie in a foreign language. Like, obviously, you can hear the tone and that sort of thing obviously carries a lot.
Yeah.
But to not understand the language and to be reading the subtitles, I struggle to be like, that was a really good performance, or was that just really well written or translated?
I agree with you. I think it's a fundamental problem with. It's not a problem with. It's just a problem with not knowing a language. Like, you miss out. It happens a lot with Japanese cinema, because their performances generally have a lot of sort of bombast or explosions, and like character, they sort of blow up and raise voices, and that gets lost in translation. I agree.
Yeah.
It's not so much like, he really delivered that line well. I think it's just more watching him and just, I don't know, you kind of feel like he just feels like a real guy. He's just got the dumb grin he always pops, and it's kind of, he's like, give me a taste of your brandy. Just like sort of dips his fingers in. He's like, yeah, no, not for me. It's like,
it's what scene, actually, yeah.
It's like, what an absolute asset.
Yeah.
But, like I think we all sort of know people like that who are just completely oblivious to social cues. It's like, he captures that.
Yeah.
When Radovan calls him out with like the lactose and the baking soda in the car, and he's like, and he just like, he pulls his smile, like, he's like, shit, I don't know, like, what can I do? I'm an F up, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, it's great, and I feel like with that performance side, there's definitely parts in like Pusher 2, where I can see like Mads Mikkelsen, where I'm like, oh wow, like I can see even with like without dialogue or anything like that, where it's just like that's where the acting I think for Mads stands through in the second one especially. But,
Definitely. Like I think Kim Badina is very obviously the star of this, and he gives a really good performance. Like just the kind of the way he approaches, like he kind of hulks through scenes. He's like hunched over, but he's clearly a large guy. And like when he starts to talk, you can tell he's kind of frightening. But then as soon as his veneer breaks, because they're like, "You fucked up," he's just like, you sort of see him hold this look, and then he's just like, "I can get the money for you. I can get it." And he's trying so hard to not break down and be like, "Please don't kill me." But then, like the same way, he laughs about it, and he's like, "Yeah," and you can just tell he's terrified inside. But he's like, "All I can do here is try to play it off, because otherwise they're going to feed on that. It's going to cause issues." So I just laugh about it and make it. And with each scene, like each day passing, he gets more. Like when he robs his friend,
yeah,
and the guy's just like, "Oh," the guy just shakes his head and he's like, "Yeah, you really fucked up now." And he's like, he's just like,
you were going off the deep end, man. You were like,
yeah. And there's no
burning bridges that you can't come back.
And you can tell that Frank kind of has this. He's trying to project an image of himself as a pusher, and he's not that. He is kind of scary, but he's also such a balls up that everyone who knows him is like, "Just what are you doing, dickhead?" And like, he pulls a gun at a guy, and everyone's just kind of like, as soon as he's out, he's like, he's robbed me, and they're trying to get him. It's like this guy is barely surviving, and he captures it really well, like the superficial fearsomeness, but there's a sort of like, and there's violent outbursts, but he's also just sort of like a coward. He's just weak and he's a coward. Like the way he treats Vic is obviously pretty deplorable. Yeah, this guy is just a real little man, and he's trying to make something, and he just can't do it right.
So, is Frank a goner?
Yeah,
100%. He goes the way that we see they deal with people in the third one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So. It's I really like the final scene, just showing like all these different people who are basically like getting ready to kill him. Yeah, he's like, he can't escape this. So, the pacing of this movie is really clever with like the days of the week, and just being like, Monday is just let's drive around and talk shit. And Vic has that quote. She's like, you just got to go drive around with Tony and be a dickhead.
Yeah.
And then it's like gets more and more, and then it's like Thursday, Friday, and he's just like checking with everybody. He's like, what are we going to do? He's got to be
it's like a clock ticking down. It's like, oh, we're getting to the end of the week.
He's got to be dead. Yeah, I can't imagine he gets out okay.
No,
not after he ripped off from Milo.
And he was so close. Because they could have got out, but
he should have just left. Yeah, gone to Spain.
Did you guys like Milo?
I like him more in the later ones. He's weird in the first one. He's very unassuming, and that's partially what he's meant to be. But I don't know. I don't know if I was convinced that he's a dangerous drug dealer when he's just like, I made you this weird gelatin dish, and everyone's like, you're bad at making.
I love that it's a running thing that he's not a good cook.
I think sometimes people try to make their villain or whatever kind of unassuming, and it's like, that makes them unique, that makes them unusual. And but I don't know that it always works. I like Milo. I probably agree that I like him better in 2 and 3.
Yeah. Did you like him, Luke?
Yeah, like I didn't mind it. Like there's a part of it like near the start where I'm just like, oh man, what a nice drug dealer. Like to have that's like person owing you money, and he's just like, yeah, okay, another day. Oh, Frank. I'm just like, okay, this is. But there is a part of him where, like, I feel like towards the end, and then especially after watching the third one, going back in hindsight, I guess. But it's like there is something off, like, kind of terrifying about him. I feel like where it's like, oh, I don't want to see what he's like when he's scary, actually. But yeah,
for me, I think they needed something a little bit more like that, because you see him they walk in and he's just like hanging out at a restaurant with some guys playing chess in the background.
Yeah,
and he seems like kind of the dork there, because he's like, hey, Frank, come talk. Let's look at the food I made.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, he makes the deal. And then Radovan's constantly like, I'm going to kill you, but you better get food,
Frank,
or you better get drugs, or I'll kill you. And it's just like, and then in number 3, we see how Radovan just like, oh yeah, he's just like so matter of factly. But there's kind of, I don't know. It's trite to say, oh, we need to see Milo kill somebody. But there was part of me, I'm like, is he scary? Like, is this guy truly that scary? I don't like. There's no outbursts. There's nothing really to suggest that he is, besides being like he just has money. He has drugs, and Radovan will ply a kneecap
Yeah.
off if he has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Radovan's kind of reveal of being terrifying comes maybe a little too late. Like, you know, when he's torturing him, it's like, all right, shit, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's you know, he's getting electrical wires ready, and like this is going to go bad. But, yeah, even the scene where they go to get the, what do they do? They go there's the junkie that they go to get the money off.
Yeah.
Who owes Frank money, and they like give him the shotgun. He's like, "Well, you can rob a bank." And I'm like, "Oh, all right," but then he just shoots himself. Yeah,
and even then, he's like, the guy's like, he pulls and he's going to shoot them, and it's like, why would you give this guy a loaded gun?
Yeah.
That's really not very smart.
Yeah.
For a guy like who's meant to be this incredibly good enforcer for a drug dealer,
You give a junkie a gun.
yeah, and be like, get my money or I'll kill you. It's like, no, that's there's a step missing here. But I don't know. I haven't spent too much time in the underworld, especially not the Copenhagen underworld. Maybe they are all kind of friendly like this.
Yeah.
And like maybe what's his name? Zlatko Buric. Maybe this was it. Maybe he was a drug dealer. Like in the second movie, there's a lot of criminals who play extras and side characters.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just like, hey, you've always been drug
dealer.
Yeah, it's like, can you come and act for it? It's like, as long as I can do exactly what I do normally.
Yeah. He's like, and I'm a great cook.
How much cocaine can you do in a week or a night? Like, people do a lot of cocaine in these movies, and I guess I have no concept of how much cocaine is a lot of cocaine, right? Like,
yeah, me neither.
it's just bonkers to me that like every 5 minutes they can be walking into a bathroom. Like number 3 is one that really gets me, where they're all trying to get high together, and they're just like snorting line after line. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like a lot. It seems like your body can take a lot of cocaine.
It seems like it.
But
I googled a lot of drugs during this movie, so I may be on a list now.
Like,
I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out what the drug was that he was trying to get for that other guy, the brown heroin, whatever it was. I can't remember.
Grana's like, how much can a male around 6 foot take? How much in cocaine before I die?
Yeah. Can you overdose on cocaine? Well, okay, you can.
Is it a good business idea to sell drugs?
Yeah. So yeah, I might be on a list now after these movies.
Are drug dealers actually nice?
Convert Danish kroner to Australian dollars.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Again, I'm assuming that a lot of this is genuine because I think they also.
I don't think there's anything unrealistic with the amount that they're doing, but
it is the kind of thing. It's like with silences in movies. Like gun silences do not sound like that, but every single movie has agreed that silences sound like a laser. So maybe it's like the same with cocaine. Maybe you only do a few bumps and then you kind of any more than that and it's bad for you. And movies have just decided you can keep hitting it.
It's interesting that these movies don't really look at, there's not a single overdose in any of these movies, right? There's not a single.
I thought there was going to be with Vic.
Yeah. I thought there was going to be with Vic, and like obviously in the third one it deals with addiction, but it still doesn't. I don't know. There's almost a glorification of the drugs a little bit. I feel like in these movies to some degree. Like obviously it's a shitty life and it doesn't end up good for them, but everybody's having a fucking good time. Like
I feel like I had the opposite thought, but like I guess if you say it like that there might be a glorification of drugs, but I don't think that. I feel like it definitely doesn't glorify the lifestyle of these people and that the lives.
Not of the dealers necessarily, but like the party lifestyle of going out with your friends, drinking and getting high. Make it seem pretty appealing. Yeah. Like I don't know, any other movie I think of about drugs, there's always someone who overdoses. There's always someone who takes too much.
Party's just too hard.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen in these movies.
Always got to show you the downside. Yeah, I don't think Refn's interested in showing that. I just don't think he cares about he doesn't care about the people getting it. He doesn't care about. No. Literally, all he cares about is the pushers. Yeah, and he's just like, what's the life of a drug pusher? And the people involved in that, which is cool. I don't. It's a timeless problem. Like, how do you depict something bad that is so good for the people who are doing it? It's like like war movies. How do you make a war movie that's not kind of entertaining and thus glorifying? Yeah, like Martin Scorsese's often like people who are critics of him will be like he celebrates all these behaviors of like the mafia And it's like, yeah, but you kind of have to show that it is joyous, because to be like, oh, drugs are just miserable. So, well, why does anyone take them? There's clearly some reason that people are doing it.
Yeah, and it's
And
not
so,
like there's not like there's a million other movies we can watch if we want to look at the effects of drugs at the other end, right? Like that's out there too. I don't know. I think I was higher on these movies than you guys were. Like I came in with no expectations. I was like, I have to watch Mads Mikkelsen for an hour and a half. But
who thinks that one?
Man,
I'm joking. I just don't have the erection that you guys have for him. But I still really,
the king of cocks.
I really enjoyed these. Yeah, I just really enjoyed this movie and all these movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well,
Like,
with that,
I was laughing the whole way through. Like I thought the banter was there. I enjoyed him talking about
because you were like
needing 4 women to suck himself off, and like it's just great.
You were Leo pointing at the screen like, I've ejaculated on faces before. That is what it's like.
I had sex with a woman and she bumped her teeth on the bathtub, but it was just her baby teeth. It's okay.
Oh god,
it's a bad joke. It's a bad joke.
Yeah. No, it was good. I don't want to sound too down on it. It's just I was expecting to be like, expecting Reservoir Dogs and be like, this movie changes me, but I don't know. I just didn't.
I want to go deal drugs in Copenhagen. Wasn't there? I don't know what to tell you.
I do want to go to Copenhagen if I have to deal drugs. That's fun. Sure. With that, we'll move on. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Not for this one, no. No, not for the first one.
Oh, sorry, cool. All right. You died as you lived, like a real piece of shit.
Piece of shit.
All right, Pusher 2. Is it Tony or Tony?
Tony.
It's
2 N's. How do you say 2 N's?
It's pronounced Tony.
Nah. Say it however you want.
Neither of them.
Is it Milo or Milo? Because if you're Australian, it's Milo. But
it's Milo, and I think he's making Milos in the back for everybody. All right, I'm going to call him Tony because 2 N's. So Tony is released from prison again. This time he has his mind set on changing his broken down life, but that is easier said than done.
Amen, brother.
I was so glad that he's not a drug pusher in this movie. Like I was worried that it was just going to be, because I feel like the first movie, as much as I really enjoyed it, the plot of all like drug dealer movies is kind of like that. It's like, if I sell this amount of drugs, it's going to be my big score. Something happens to the drugs. Often it's because they take them or they're an addict or something like that. Obviously, that's not the way this movie went. But and then they're in trouble with the dealer above them, and they owe money to someone else, and it's this tangled web. And I was so glad that this movie was not him pushing drugs like Frank did. I guess
just Tony, doing the Frank thing. I agree. The direction this trilogy goes is one of the most fascinating directions a trilogy can go. It's really intriguing. Like to take a central adjacent character and be like, he is now the lead, and then in the third one as well, again, take like another sort of mainstay and make them the lead. It's such an interesting way to do it because it's just, that's the exact thing. They're not going to repeat the formula, and they can't just use Frank again. So what do you do? Like, I don't know. I really admire the choice of being like, well, let's flesh out this world. Let's see what it's like being in the world, but almost not of the world, because he's not a pusher. He's just kind of stuck in here, right? Because his dad is.
We start at like a middle level, then we go down to Tony, and then we go back up to the top.
And then we go up,
to see it on the 3 levels. But yeah.
But Tony's so interesting because like his dad is this notorious gangster that they establish.
Yeah.
And so he's clearly like born into the family business. But he doesn't push drugs. He just kind of is always there on the periphery. And he's like, I just need to find work. But he's a screw up, so he can't really find work. And it's like that's that interesting thing of like, he's not trying to even he's not trying to push like Frank was. He's not trying to actually make anything. He's just like, he just exists in there. He's like, well, what else am I going to do? I have to go and do something with my day. I guess I'll go and try to work in the crimes that my dad does.
I have to pay off $500 to this dude in jail. Like, I have these debts to these people, so I'll just.
I mean, he helps out with that car heist, and that's like, I like that scene. Like, that's really like well planned out. And I thought, Tony's not involved in this, but he actually was. Like, he didn't fuck it up like he does everything else.
Yeah.
But same thing. Like he does do stuff, but he doesn't want to be a car thief, and he doesn't want to be like, he's not trying to build an empire. He's just like, yeah, I'll help you, Dad. And he's like, I guess if you have to, just don't screw up. It's such a cool, it's such a cool way, sort of having like a rudderless character.
Yeah.
follow him and be like, what does this world look like for someone who doesn't want to actually necessarily be in it, but is stuck in it? And the babies are the perfect metaphor for that. Like stuck with a child and like kind of have to deal with that issue, and just trying to navigate the morality of that, even of like, what should I do? Do I have to do anything with that? It's a really clever way to tell that story.
That's the thing. He's very much kind of like a passenger throughout, like even the first film and this one. But people are constantly just like insulting him, like he's like always just copying insults from his dad, his baby mama, like his friends, missus, like calling him imbecile and just like insults and like all this sort of stuff. And even the first one, like he's like best bros with Frank and like helping Frank out. They both get arrested. He doesn't know what he said to the cops or anything. And Frank tries to kill him. Like Frank goes there and just beats the shit out of him.
Do you think he rolled on him? Like Frank jumped to that conclusion, in my opinion.
Frank jumped to the conclusion.
Yeah.
They just played on it, basically. Yeah. You see that in every episode of SVU.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, your boy already talked. And Frank's just like, oh my God. And he just runs out and starts beating the shit out of him to death.
Yeah.
But it says about the character. Everyone knows Tony would probably do that. So they're like, if anyone's got a squeal, it'd be him. So they don't even have to wait for proof.
They offered him a bump if he like squealed. And he's just like, okay. Whatever.
Tony is such a pathetic character in this. Both like we are reminded of, but like that incredibly long scene of him with the hookers.
Yes, and he's like sprinkling cocaine on his penis to try and get hard, like so good. And then even later on, he's watching porn and swinging nunchucks. Like, is there not a bigger loser activity in the world?
Just sitting there with his mate, just asleep on the couch, just like. I'm a badass.
Nunchucks and four, but perfectly catches that kind of person. Just
my wife was like, "Do people sit there with nunchucks or with their friends?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in high school."
I'm just like, I went to people's houses
and just we sat there. We were like, "Who's got the nunchucks? Okay, get them out, boys.
Who brought the pornography? Let's have a night.
A night of fun. Let's go.
Let's bash each other. Yeah, he's just I don't know. He's just a complete loser, and it's
pathetic.
Again, it's a really good way of forming empathy because you know a bit about Tony. We obviously don't know that much about his story or anything, so it fleshes that out, reveals that he's banged the one girl in Copenhagen that apparently everybody has, and he's the only one who got stuck with this.
The only one that didn't pull out. Yeah,
didn't pull out.
That's the thing. I also feel like it's very much like just a thing of like, oh. Tony's the only person we could say it's his, and what's he going to do? He's going to be like, okay, shit, I guess I have to earn money to pay child support.
Yeah, he's kind of too stupid to really stop it.
He's been
in jail for how long?
Because we never see that, do we? We never see the paternity test. He always says he will, but we never actually see it happen.
And he's getting out of prison at the start, and the baby's not that old. It's like, how long?
Well.
He's could have been in there for years and comes out and still like, oh, okay, I had a baby.
Short stint, but he racked up a $500 debt. Yeah, like he's such a screw.
He's just like, this is my baby from when we had sex 5 years ago. Okay.
I guess that's how babies work.
Baby's 2.5. That makes sense. Yeah.
Hey, look at him. He's very old. Look at him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
But that's the thing. He's really pathetic, and they show that throughout this, and like. He's copying insults. He can't get it up. He's having to watch that. He's telling them to, talk like they do in the porn movie because he's just like, no, something's not working.
Yeah.
But he's also the character that's like throughout the trilogy is like the most empathetic because you're rooting for him. Like, because you're like, he wants to be like something like, like he wants to be a good dude, and he's surrounded by shitty people everywhere.
Those scenes of his dad like praising. Is it Zero? Is that his friend's name? I don't know what his name is.
Yeah,
Zero.
I don't know.
But just like he's like a son to me and all this stuff, and then like shitting on Tony at the same time. I felt so sorry for him, and like he doesn't. Yeah, it just felt so bad for him.
And that's the scene. Like he's there doing this speech, and just constantly then. Butt of his joke that he was doing. And then he's watching his dad and Zero and this 6-year-old watch a stripper.
No.
The 6-year-old, they're just like, whoa!
What is the deal with that scene?
And that's the thing where I feel like that's where he changes. And that's like, it's the next scene when he's looking at his kid and he's like this kid's now me. Like, this is me when I grew up in this shit. Now that kid's growing up in this shit. This is my kid. I'm going to try and save him from this. life because it's shocking. It's like I kept being like, how'd they film this? Like, is this actually
Well,
like
he's covering his
some
eyes at
creepy-
one point, but yeah, it's
But yeah, but it's just
ridiculous.
like that
Yeah,
kid is just there. Like, oh man,
is that a cultural thing? Like, because all the women there is just like they're just sort of chilled with it, and they're always watching as well. I'm like, is this something that happens in the criminal underworld, or is this like a I don't know,
I
like
mean, I think it's
yeah.
I think it's definitely bad behavior. Like they're not. There's not some element of this I think that's cultural where they're like, oh no, this is fine in Denmark. This is what we do. But I mean, I think it's definitely
office parties.
there's always that.
Sexually liberated.
It's kind of a meme that Europe's a lot more sexually liberated than the US particularly. But
Yeah.
I think it's still being depicted as bad form, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's meant to be bad. Yeah, you're right. This is the scene where it kind of changes because this is then when Tony goes in and he starts to choke his
Yeah.
what's her name, Charlotte,
Yep.
and it's like, oh god, he's snapped. And I think you're right because but there's a lot of really standout moments I think in this one more so than in the first. Like there's that like that scene where he starts to choke her and you just see the frustration reaching point. There's that scene where he looks in the mirror and it's all neon and he's just trying to sort of he's reflecting. There's a scene where his dad is like raise that kid properly and he's like, what, like you?
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, like me. And you can just see there's this flicker on his face. And this is where Matt's like acting really stands out. You can see that flicker on his face where he's like, he wants to just burst into tears and say, "You're a terrible father."
Yeah.
But he's got to play it off. He's got to laugh about it, and make it like always be the funny guy. Because if he's not the butt of jokes, he's nothing. And that's so sad.
Man,
Like, just...
it hits me in the soul. Like, but that's the thing because there's a great like shot on the train like where he's like in the subway and it's all dark and then like he comes out in the light sort of thing and it's just on him just like looking outside and everything. But that's the thing with the whole there's that thing with the speech, but during the speech like he's like chuckling along with it. He's very much just like but you can see just his facial features. He's just like fuck, this hurts. It's like this sucks. He's dying inside. He really is. He's Ralph Wiggum. But yeah.
Yeah. What do you think happens? Do you think because the last we see is he's running away with the baby. Like I don't know. What happens to Tony? Where does he go?
I worry about that baby because, like, my wife, we're watching this and she's like, he doesn't have any nappies, he doesn't have any formula. What's he going to do for this baby? And, like, you're right. Like,
he doesn't even know which side is the outside of the nappy.
Yeah.
Like, he's a screw up and he is not equipped to take care of that baby. I don't know. I do kind of wish, because we kind of get a little bit of closure on some characters from the previous movie here. In some ways, like, we see Milo again. We see... we hear a little bit about Frank. That he's like mentioned.
Well, Milo says, "Oh, have you heard from Frank? He went to Denmark or something." Yeah,
like he went to Norway. Yeah, which is like why? Yeah, it makes you wonder if he died or not, if he was killed.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had. Yeah, I know we just fucking with him, but I kind of wish we had some closure on Tony in the third movie.
I agree. I was waiting for that, and probably the one of the big nitpicks.
Even if it was like, oh, he's still wanted for kidnapping or something like that. I'm like, all right, at least I know, something happened. But...
Post-credit scene, he's on a beach with his kid, like sipping, Mai Tais.
Oh, he's swinging nunchucks.
He's swinging nunchucks. His little kids there swinging nunchucks as well.
Swinging baby nunchucks. Yeah, it is kind of like that. It's a dramatic ending. It's like a redemption for him, but this is the world that kind of repeats itself. And Tony's got to raise, probably, if Tony does raise this kid, he's going to screw it up because he's like, he doesn't have nappies. He doesn't know how to raise a child.
Yep.
And he's a product of his environment. So it's just going to repeat itself. And you see that with, that's mirrored with his, I guess, half brother, like the little kid who his dad has, his son.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas it's like, he's trying to raise him and you can just, the whole time. They do a good thing with kids in this because I think it's Kurt the, swear warning, but Kurt the cunt. I can't remember if it's him or not, but someone's there with his dead daughter, and they're like trying to sort out the chop shop.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Just wait here. I've got to go. It's like I got to go do a deal." And it's just like, oh, these guys are just so sort of detached from the heinous nature of what they're doing that they just bring their kids along. It's like, yeah, this is my child. Now I'm going to go deal some drugs and talk about people who have been killed. It's like, oh, this is just this vicious cycle where And so even though Tony gets some redemption, the tragedy is like you can't really escape that. I don't know. It's more, this movie is a lot more insightful than the first one. Like the first one doesn't really have necessarily anything. I don't know if it has that much to be like you said, Grana. It doesn't spend any time saying drugs are bad. It's just like this is a wild time and it goes wrong.
Yep.
Whereas this has got a lot more to say about the world of criminality and fathers and sons. And,
yep. And this cycle that's never going to end. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I know that really worked for me with this.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree.
I like the scene of them, like Mads, Tony trying to have to shoot Kurt. Kurt's just like chickening out constantly. It's just like,
that's
shoot me in the arm.
And then he just like throws the gun away and runs. Like it's such a strange scene.
Not criminal masterminds, these guys.
No, not at all.
Not good at what they do.
But we see Muhammad in this one, which I didn't even realize. He comes
back
in the third one.
Little Muhammad becomes him. Yeah, I forgot it was him as well. I saw it in the casting. Sorry, pardon me. And yeah, Miller gets a bit more to work with here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It seems like he's moved up in that scene. Like, I don't know, he's better dressed. I don't know.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that scene. Like, there was definitely Milo messing with him, right? Like knocking on the door to scare him into flushing the drugs. Kurt is the biggest screw up than
such a bot
than Tony. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's like that kid. He's like the kid that hangs around with your kid. And it's like, that kid's such a bad influence on my kid. I don't want them to play with them. Just leave Kurt alone. He's bad.
Yeah, he's just bad. It's true. Like he must have been. You can tell he knocks on the window. It's like, this guy just knows he can make an easy he can make more money by scaring him this way. It's so. It's so.
Like, oh man, I remember when Frank put all the drugs in the water. I'll get Kurt to do it as well.
Yeah, but just like when Kurt's like, it was an accident. Do I have to pay you now?
I get a refund.
It was your accident, not my accident. Yeah.
It's like, just the business of it's a mess.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of his dad's death scene, where Tony finally kills his father? It's very visceral. It's
it's visceral. It's like it's kind of quiet too. Like there's no fanfare. There's no glorification of it. I guess it's just like he's shanking him.
Not super bloody, but it's just kind of like it's got that thuk, and you're like, oh, this is it's understated, but that makes it kind of it just makes it feel a lot more tense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kudos.
I think that's what it adds to it, making it feel real. It's not like this big dramatic thing. It's very much just like a oh shit, okay, he's stabbing him. Good riddance.
And then the scene after where he goes back to his apartment and then his friend's wife is just like, you're such an idiot. She's just laying into him for no reason. I can't remember what something. She gets a phone call or something, and she's mad about something. But she's just
her nose starts bleeding.
Yeah, that's right. Her nose starts bleeding because she's doing cocaine, and then and she's just like, "Screw you, Tony. You're such a screw up." Like she's just really laying into him. I'm like, what did he do?
That's why I think she's like, she asks if he has any cocaine, and he does, and it makes her nose bleed. And she's like, "This was your fault."
Yeah.
What?
And he's just like sitting there recovering from killing his dad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, really good way to. Really good ending. Really good way to.
Yeah.
But she's getting dressed up, and she's just like, it's so weird. Very sexually liberated country, just with your friends and your mates' friends, and you just
in your lingerie.
Just like it's cool. It's what we do.
Yep.
Drugs and hookers, man, they go hand in hand.
Yep.
All right. Should move on. Do you guys have anything else to add to Pusher 2?
Just don't do speed mixed with rat poison.
Bad news.
I like that he just goes straight for it. He's just like,
it's so funny. He's like, because junkies will go straight for it.
For me, you shouldn't have.
I just like, this movie has the subtitle with blood on my hands. What do you think that's about? Because the second and third both have subtitles.
Because she gets blood on her hands when she snorts the coke.
Oh yes, that's it.
He kills his dad, and he kills
his dad.
Blood on his hands.
I guess. Yeah.
It's deep.
Oh, that was easy. All right, Pusher 3. Milo tries to to be proper, tries to be a family man and run his criminal organization, but a wrong drug shipment endangers everything.
And
Now, here's a movie.
3. I am the angel of death.
What does that mean? Is that
Milo
Radovan?
is the angel of death.
Is he, though? Who does Milo kill? Does he? Oh, no, he kills two people. Yeah, sorry. But it's like, I don't know. It's not planned, right?
That's just rage.
No.
The subtitles are weird, guys. By the time I see those movies, I'm like, why is this called that? I don't know if it's like... It feels very heavy-handed.
Feels a bit off. It feels like Halo Combat Evolved. It's too much.
Yeah.
Subtitles were all the rage in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Must have been. You needed those to get your movie made.
It could have been Pusher 2. Two Pusher 2 Furious.
I was surprised that Milo was the guy that this movie was about. Yeah, the character. I don't know who I actually thought it was just going to be some random that I hadn't, some new character. Maybe Kurt. I was surprised when it was Milo, but I like it was a very interesting perspective on the drug world, I guess.
Yeah, I really like this one. Sorry, Luke, what are you saying?
Yeah, no, I like the aging drug lord that now has to deal with all these young people and who do things in a different style, a lot more, in your face, like threatening sort of thing. But it's an interesting way to take it with Milo, but I really enjoy this one as well. Especially like the last half where it's just like, okay, shit's getting real. Like,
how do we cut up a body? I was like,
oh man, so brutal.
Just shoving it down the disposal.
Yeah, oh my god, it's so nasty.
Cutting up the intestines.
It's a perfect conclusion to his chef arc. He wanted to be like, this guy's a cook. It's like, so he knows how to cut up a piece of meat. Yeah,
exactly. Long term.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice companion piece with the second one. Like, second one being about sons and, it's from a son's perspective and dealing with the future that he might one day be a father and what does that look like. This one's about a father and aging out of that, like both the world that you're in changing. It's a pretty timeless concept of the world is different to what we knew and it eventually leaves us behind. But then also he's trying to be a family man and trying to be committed father, but how you can't be that if you're in this world. I don't know. It's like I really liked the AA scenes with these where he just turns up and he's just like, I'm trying to get clean and I really can't. And he's
got to turn off his burner phone so he can attend his NA meeting. Like it's just, it's interesting.
Yeah. It just builds an interesting idea of a character. Like he's perfectly happy, or maybe he's not happy, but he's always just dealt drugs. But he's now recognizing he's like, I can't do this. I need to get out of it myself, my own personal well-being. And what does that mean of a person who is happy to sell a drug that they wouldn't themselves take or don't want to take? I don't know. It's really it's interesting.
I love that part of his undoing was giving his staff food poisoning. Those scenes where he's trying to get someone to come with him to get the boxes of wine and they're just keeled over. It's good.
Did you guys ever suspect that they were going to betray him? Because I spent the whole movie
that. I was like, they're actually just making being sick because they want to set him up to go on the meeting himself.
No, that scene where he's dressing him and telling him he looks good. No, that man's in it. He loves this man. He's going to kiss. He'll kiss the ring.
Kiss the ring. I guess I don't know. There was something about because when he comes in and he starts talking to them, they're all just they're just really useless. They're all just sitting around and this food you made is crap. And he's like, "This is your crime boss. Shouldn't you be a little bit respectful?" And they're all just reading the paper and just not doing anything. And he's like, he's trying to cook.
Really sick, dude.
Well, yes. So, but after when he first comes in, they all just seem like a bunch of bums.
Yeah.
And for some time, I was like, oh yeah, they've all sided with King Kong of Copenhagen, so they're going to side with him. But it ended up just being he just poisoned them with raw meat, which is pretty funny.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Miller, you get a really good performance out of Miller in this one. I think where he's doesn't do much in the first and seconds. It's a cool idea of just exploring him and really fleshing out again the tension of you can see him stressed out when he's trying to cook and when he's trying to do it all. But then
he's trying to attend a party and butcher a man. Yeah.
Yeah. And then but then he's always putting on that face. Like as soon as he turns up to a social event, he's like, "Oh, come in, come and have some food." And like, oh, this is all an act. He's not actually like a super jovial friendly guy. I think he knows that this is how you can be a drug kingpin in this world, where you like you said before, Griner, you can be unassuming and you can be a bit quirky, and that he puts that on. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I saw through it from the start. I was like, no,
You saw
that man cuts up bodies.
If you're a criminal and you're a chef, you probably cut up humans. Yeah.
But that's the thing, like watching, like towards the end, I love Radovan being reintroduced and him having a restaurant, and I was like, oh, look at my boy,
That is
making it.
That's like my Spider-Man No Way Home cameo.
Yes.
When he turned up, I was just like, yes.
I heard the Avengers music playing in the background. It's like, oh yeah, here we go.
Because for a moment I didn't realize it. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah,
that's
it took me a second
Radovan!
too. Yeah.
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 It was really good.
So is Muhammad still in that freezer?
Forgot about that.
I forgot about it.
Like, there's a few loose ends in this movie that bother me a lot. Actually, that's one of them. Like,
Was that in Radovan's freezer at his restaurant?
Yeah. So they put him in the freezer. I assume it was a working freezer, as far as I could tell. And like, there was that threat from the crap cop, like, don't kill this guy because we'll come after you.
Yeah.
And then there's Chekhov's gun, right? He puts some drugs in the bottom of a freezer, and there's a gun in there.
Yeah.
And they show us that gun specifically, and then that gun never goes off, and that's like a sin, right? You can't do that.
And Chekhov says you can't, but if he's so smart, how come he's dead?
That's true. That's true.
I know that was something that I had the same thought. I was like, oh, he's going to go and get... Because when the whole central conceit, right, is the sale of the girl.
Yep.
And it's just like a masterfully done scene of tension where you can just feel Milo brewing about this thing this heinous crime being committed that he's part of. And so the whole time I'm like, oh, he's going to go out to the freezer, get some food, haha, that's how Milo, and they just like pop him. But they don't, which is interesting. I don't know if that was intentional to make you think, oh, it's going to be clear, but then it's an emotional outburst that sort of causes it.
Yeah, you're probably right. That probably makes because it's a pretty tense scene where he takes him out with the hammer and then
like they're torturing with the boiling water. It's just like, oh.
Messed up.
And it's like her birthday. It's his daughter's birthday. It's like he's just it's going through it.
Tell her you love sex in English. It's just like, oh my goodness, this man's a bad man.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. Yeah, like you're right. There are a few loose ends in this. I wonder if I wonder how much that is intentional to be like, this is because this movie probably more than any of the other, even more than the first one, feels the most tense. Like because it's one day, and it says this is a bad day because he's like, I've got to stop cooking, get a haircut, go to AA and check in, come back, continue cooking, go to a party,
pick up the wine.
Pick up the wine. I've also got some drugs to sell in between this. Like, holy hell.
It might be like a thing. Whole thing might be like a symbolism thing for like AA. You know, like all it takes is one bad day. Like, don't take that drug.
Maybe
it'll lead to that day getting worse. And he takes the drug, and it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, Kurt ruins everything again.
Yeah,
he just turns up just to do that. Like he's such a cunt.
What is he? Yeah.
He's just so gross looking, like he's in bad clothes, and it's like he's that kind of scumbag, you're like, oh god, don't see me, and he sees you. It's like, no, I have to talk. I have to make small talk with this guy.
And then they didn't even eat the fish; they threw the fish out. Like that whole thing was pointless.
His daughter, like, would you guys go to all this trouble for her? Because she seems like a real piece of shit. The fish. But then even with she starts to blackmail him and be like, no, you got to give my junky ass boyfriend a bigger cut in your drug business. Like,
and he seemed kind of proud of that though. Like he was kind of into that.
And I guess that's part of the point. Is like he's once a criminal, always a criminal. But I was just like this.
It's the whole thing with Tony. She's like, you were kind of a shit dad, so you know, like this. So
I guess you're right. Yeah, that is the point. It's like the shit people make shit people. But the whole time, every time she was on screen, I'm like, she's bad news.
Yeah.
And he gives the whole speech where he's like, from the moment I saw you, I just wanted to give you everything. I was like, her? Yes, that's fatherhood for you.
It's true.
Yeah. But the whole ending thing with Radovan and Milo, it had me feel just like, oh man, poor Frank. Like I was like, this was Frank's fate, eh? So this is how it all went down, and
Yeah.
like I feel like that's its intent as well. Also, is just to be like how casual Radovan is with it. Like he's this businessman, he's super chummy and just like, hey, you need a favor, okay, but don't ask me to do this again. And he's just like, he's sharpening his knife, like,
He's
all right, let's
yeah.
cut this dude dripping out. Oh, look at that! Some of it got out of the bucket. Go tip that out, please. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm like, man, that dude serves people fish and chips the next day. You know, like he's
Well, no,
probably telling
'cause
his stuff for the rest of his career, like, don't open that freezer.
yeah,
Whatever you do, you can't store stuff in that freezer.
it's out of water. For the love of
Yep.
God, don't look in there.
Yep.
I think that's a really good choice to have rather than like because he kind of embodies that idea of like once even if you escape this world, you never truly escape your nature.
Mm.
Because that's rather than since what the first one is that's his been he's like, I want to open a restaurant. And you could have had the version where he's just like, no, you won't make me do it. Then Miller has to like blackmail him or something, or he's really, but yeah, he's just like, I don't do that anymore, but I will for you. And so yeah, he's like, cool, let's carve up his body. He's just like, I'll bleed. You
Yep.
stick him, you bleed him, get the plastic out. You need a big bucket. Is the fact that he is so matter of fact is like, oh, this guy's actually a monster as well.
Yeah.
And even though he's living a life that he sort of wants to, and you're glad he is because yeah, Radovan's kind of the most likable one. He's
Yeah.
also he's also the angel of death. Like he just sweeps in and kills, just cuts his
Yep.
body up, and he's just so casual about it.
Yeah.
Because imagine doing that for your friend. If one of you guys was like at 2 a.m., hey, can you come and help me kill a body? Oh, you're going to cut up a body. I'm like, no, I got work in the morning. I'm not going to drive up there and do that.
See how I'm going after work tomorrow. Yeah. And I mean, surely, I don't like. There can't be that much heat on that plate. Oh, I guess the other guys are going to come for him, but he's got his men. Like, how long does food poisoning last? 24 hours.
It take a while.
He's got freezers. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, what happens to because so he's dealing with the guy who's selling the girl is Polish.
Yeah,
but the guy who he's dealing with is Armenian. Is that right?
Something
One
like
of them
that.
is Armenian.
There's a lot of stuff here that like is lost
Albanian,
on people who
I
don't
think.
speak
Albanian.
those languages.
No,
I think.
yeah, because that's right. His supplier is Albanian, and so yeah, he's got an Albanian dealing with a Polish guy in Denmark. There's a lot of language play, which is interesting. I don't know if it means anything, but yeah, you're right. Like, surely he's going to come after and be like, "Hey, my friend?
Yeah.
Where is he?" But I guess that's kind of the point as well. Is like after these this is the world they're in. Like there is, to your point, Luke. There is eventually a day that goes so bad where you can't tie up all the loose ends. And what was that?
Oh,
he's muted himself. He's being attacked. Has Radovan got him?
I'm okay. Radovancy. It's all right.
that's what I just thought. I was like, oh my god, one bad day's happening now.
Yeah.
Trying to come has come.
That was
All right. I don't want to calm your
my
body.
green screen fell on me. It's all right.
No.
The thing that can happen, like
It
you never
can.
know. Green screen can fall on you. Radovan can cut you up.
Right.
What's your take on the ending? As in, is it that one bad day for Milo that he can't cover up everything, and he's sitting there the next day like I'm kind of screwed now. Like this was a mess. Like I've made a mess, or is it showing like he's there the next morning? And he's just like, oh yeah, I'll have a coffee. He's like, all in a day's work, and it's Friday for Milo, and it's not really like out of the ordinary, and he's just going to continue living this life. Like, what is the ending? He's over there by his empty pool.
Yeah.
Like what's the ending, Conan?
I don't know. Grana, what do you think?
I was kind of hoping for more from the ending, to be honest. Like, I felt like it kind of... Yeah, it felt a little unresolved, I guess. Like, I thought there was going to be another scene that kind of gives us maybe some closure on what his future is. Because we get more for the other characters, I guess. Like, we get a glimpse into what their future's likely to be. Yeah. Or we can at least we can infer what their future's likely to be. It's not really clear, like... Is this the 15th time this has happened to Milo? And he's getting older and it's harder to deal with when his guys are sick, but It's not the first time he's taken out a competitor's henchman and, had to deal with this stuff. I don't think we really get a great insight into that.
He really did not struggle cutting up that dude's organs.
No, like he's cut some organs up before.
He was fine. He was not nervous about it at all. So
yeah, I think that's more of the point. Is like because the whole movie is premised on the idea he's trying to break out. Right? He's trying to give up heroin. He wants to be like the father and the chef.
Yeah,
and he wants to sell that. I don't know if it's ever mentioned explicitly, but you get the feeling that he wants to do this big shipment to be done with it. And when the ecstasy comes in, he's like, God, that's not what I'm supposed to get. Like, that's how I read it, at least. That is like, this had that feeling of like sort of one last
job.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't, but that's how I read it. And then I think that's kind of the point, is like he's trying to get clean and trying to get out of it, but you can't get out of it. And so it's just so normal for him. So yeah, he turns back to home and he's like, and she wonders she's like, where were you last night? And he's like, oh, just out and about. And then he's like, goes home to it, and looks at an empty hole. And he kind of looks at an empty hole and goes, this is, I think, it's like, that's me. That's what he's got. That's his life. Because he can't actually leave it. Right. And I honestly think like the loose ends are probably intentional. Of being like, he will never be able to tie these up because you can't tie that up.
Mm.
Like the Albanian will come looking for his friends. We still don't know what's going to happen with the drugs because I guess the ecstasy wasn't sold, so he owes them money.
Muhammad's still in a freezer.
Muhammad's in a freezer, and something's going to go bad there. Like,
be after him.
Yeah, I think it's just meant to be like completely kind of hopeless ending. It's like, he's in a house with a daughter who might not love him. I think she loves the idea of him, but she seems a bit like, he wants her to have a cup of coffee. She's like, no, I'm going to bed. It's like, okay, so he's kind of alone.
Yeah.
And Radovan has said no more. And he's old, and he failed at AA. Like, he's also just a fuck up.
The thing, he gets really triggered by being called an addict. That's was that guy's undoing. Now he's going to freeze to death through the rest of his life.
Like Muhammad's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
like little Muhammad is an absolute just comes in and he's like, "Fuck you, you're old. I'm going to do this. This is how you should sell drugs."
Yeah.
And yeah, just like, he's like teasing him and he's laughing with his friend and he's like, what's all this crap? Like, Muhammad's a bad man. If anyone deserves to be put in a freezer, it's probably him.
Yeah.
When he walks out into the backyard and there's the two tables there, I thought that was someone like setting him up to, like he put the plastic down to gut the other dude. This is his table where he's going to get dissected. But obviously I don't know. They were just weird tables in his backyard. But
it's just his decoration. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a shame we don't get any closure on Tommy.
Yeah.
I thought he would be like knocking the door at the right end and be like, we need to get the band back together.
I found Frank.
Frank's back. He's got the money. He promises.
Don't worry about the ecstasy. We can do it together. Yeah, that's Pusher 4. They all come back. Is it better if Radovan is Tommy? And he goes and Tony's opened a pizza restaurant with his kid. And he starts telling stories about it.
Sure.
No, we need a Radovan.
Nobody's going to go to Tony when they need someone reliable. That's the problem.
That's so true.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I would have liked to see. Yeah, I would have liked to see some sort of closure to that. And even because they make a deal about his dad being a huge crime lord in number 2, like the prisoner he talks to in the opening of number. In the opening of the second one, the prisoner gives the whole big thing where he's like, the only reason I'm doing anything for you is because your dad is
who he is.
Who he is. And so with him dead, I want to see some sort of. I was kind of hoping to be something from that. I like stories that follow vacuums, and I like, here's a vacuum in power, and here's how everybody connives.
Like families fighting for that power that is released by him.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe Miller's trying to get a bigger cut for himself because of that, or maybe that's why little Muhammad's got a bigger role. I don't know, but they don't mention it. It seems a bit weird to be like, this guy is the biggest drug lord in Copenhagen, and his son killed him, and it's like, oh, life goes on. I don't know.
True. Drugs are bad.
Yeah, it's a moral.
Or are they?
Yeah, I don't know. Pimping is bad. Pimping will get you.
Pimping's very bad.
Yeah, killed with a hammer and cut up.
Trafficking, yeah.
Yeah, don't traffic people.
No.
Not a good thing. All right, well.
Like stuff all traffic. I don't like any traffic.
yeah, driving cars bad. Sorry, so I do want to mention, like, I think the whole making the central part of the film like 30 minutes of just this deal with the girl, and just like wait here. Like the way they walk in and they just start to shit all over him is like, hey, get us a Coke. And he's like, I don't work for you. And they're like, you do. You work for us now. And he knows he's just like, I shouldn't have got into business with these guys. And they're just like,
If only my guys hadn't all gotten food poisoning.
They stop beating people.
Exactly. So like that's building up to that, and then she comes in, and the other pimp comes in, and she's like, I won't buy this girl.
And she's from the second one as well. That's Jeanette. In
Is
the red
it?
room that Tony goes
yeah.
to.
Oh yeah.
See, that's her.
Oh wow, the Pusher extended universe
It is.
goes
Yeah.
deep.
It does.
Wow.
And
Maybe she's probably holding
Kurt,
time.
Kurt the Cunt is the same Kurt the Cunt from the second one.
No way. Oh.
Yeah. He's just got hair now. He's got hair now. That's why he says that thing about the hair.
I thought it was just a term of endearment, like in Australia.
No, there's
Oh,
there's a few of them out there, but this is the same one.
You got to keep a list of all the Kurt's. Yeah, but like I really like framing the story around this central deal of like he's stuck in it and he can't get he has to be there because he's kind of hands are tied, and just like this awful deal. He's like, I don't want to do this. I'm just trying to sell drugs. And just the slow building of tension of like what's going to happen. When is he going to snap? Is he going to snap at all, or is he going to be? I don't know. And then just lingering on the let's watch for half an hour how to dissect a human body, and it's like, oh, this is again like what I mentioned before, like the empathy through being near something. This is kind of the opposite. This is like this repulsion by just being there, because there's never like Miller's never like, oh god, the smell. They're just like it's like so they are just
casual.
Yeah, they're just cutting up meat at a butchery. It's like, oh, this is a human being. And just the exposure to the banality of that really makes you be like, God, this world is messed up.
It feels really harrowing because it's like, even the whole thing with Radovan just like smacking the body to try and get the blood to come out. And he's just like patting it, like, come on, buddy, come on, get it out. And it's like, oh my god, this is giving me nightmares. Like, oh man,
it's real bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else to say about Pusher 3?
Nope.
Let's rank them.
Nobody else rank them. All right. Grant, what do you? I think yours will be very. No, I think we'll all be different. What do you rank it as?
I rank it 2, 1, 3. 2 being the best.
2, 1, 3. Okay. Luke, what about you?
2, 1, 3. Same as Grana.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm in between. I think it could either be 3 as my favorite or 2. So it would probably be 2, 3, 1 though. I think. Yeah.
Only thing is, I feel like the first half of 3 drags. I feel like.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, where I was just like, oh, I'm a bit bored. For the first half of 3, but 2's just real. Like 2's definitely number 1 for me because I think it tells a better story. I think it's empathize with the character more. It's got the most mads for sure. It's got the nunchucks.
Nunchucks and porn, like, how can you go wrong?
2, 1, 3, and so, there's something about 1 that, like, technically you could say 3's a better movie, but like, there's just something about 1 that I like that story with Frank and
like 1 is a more admirable film without a doubt because this is really admirable, like young guerrilla filmmaking. I can't help but admire. I just think 2 and 3 were he's had 8 years of experience. Like of course he's going to be a better filmmaker. I think just 2 and 3 are.
That's not always the case.
Well, no, you're right.
He's got 20 years, and he's
okay. I take it back.
Crap.
I'm completely wrong. I don't know what's going on with you, Refn.
Some people peak young.
But I think for me it's just 2, 3. I really like 3. Really clipped with me for some reason. But cool. I guess we can all agree that if Mads Mikkelsen is the star of the movie,
2, 3, 2, 1, 3.
Drive, Valhalla Rising, Pusher 2.
I need to watch Valhalla Rising. This sounds interesting. A Viking with Mads Mikkelsen?
Yep. And then the Amazon Prime show. And then this.
And Death Stranding as well.
Death Stranding. Get out. All right, well, look, that's it then. Pusher, done. 2 is the best, is what we need to take away from that. What are we doing next, fellas? I don't know who's
It's Luke's turn, and he's not ready.
Survivor seasons 1 through 3.
Yes, I do our promoting. Go through our promotions first.
This book, this podcast is brought to you by my book, The Taste of Iron, The God Grotesque. Find them on Amazon. They've got lots of bodies being cut up. They've got drugs. They've got a criminal underworld. It's pretty comparable. I think Nicholas Winding Refn might have stolen some ideas.
Women being trafficked, yeah.
It does, yeah. It's really just my wheelhouse. Anyway, they're really good. Read those, please, so I can quit my job. If you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Rating us on Spotify makes a big difference, as does on iTunes. So any sort of engagement will just help us a lot. It will continue to fund this and make our dreams come true. And we won't go down the path of Frank or Kurt the Cunt. Fingers crossed. Luke?
So, next fortnight... that was 100% my first one I easy go to. So, off the top of my head, the next fortnight we will be reviewing something where we can definitely pick the worst. I feel like out of the three, the Shrek trilogy.
Oh god!
Yeah, right. All right.
Trust me, don't know where I pulled that from, but we are doing the Shrek trilogy.
Isn't there like 8 of them though?
No,
yeah, there's more.
But there's definitely a trilogy in it, though. There's definitely the first 3.
Shrek. Yeah, okay. Shrek Forever After is a 4th. Yeah, anyway,
and it was like straight to DVD. Like there's the trilogy, which had its own definitive thing.
I think Shrek the Halls.
That's a Christmas special.
Okay.
I think I'm the only millennial who doesn't have any affection for Shrek.
Oh, that'll be interesting. I really like the first 2 and have a nostalgic part of me, especially for this, like the second one. So
yeah, I'd say that for the first one to some degree. I mean, I can't say I've watched it in a long, long time.
Neither have I. So I always forget it exists other than Shrek the character.
Dust off my Smash Mouth playlist.
Yes, let's go. Yeah,
Wow,
so the Shrek trilogy.
All right, Shrek, cool. Well, tune in 2 weeks for some Shrek action. It's a nice chaser to Pusher.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, thank you for joining us on the Good, Bad, and Worse. Tell everyone about us, and we'll see you next time.